Okay. While we're on the subject of Visa bills, I'd like to bring up a suggestion that we develop a credit card policy. We don't really have a credit card policy or any type of agreement that we require officials or department heads to sign and agree to when they are provided with a county credit card. I don't think that's a good practice to follow. I think that kind of leaves some things open-ended. I think there needs to be an understanding, with the officials or department heads that if they have a credit card, they have to understand that if certain charges that they would put on there are not charges that the county should be liable to pay, that they would personally be liable to pay it. If they would turn the bill in with missing receipts, and I want to ask you, what's your opinion, the three of you, is it good policy to pay bills that are missing receipts? Is that a good policy to follow? That we should go ahead and sign off and approve it and pay it, and maybe the receipt comes in 2 or 3 days later, or a week later, or maybe it never comes in? What's your opinion on that?
Do you request a receipt right away when you receive a bill?
Do I?
Yeah.
Yes, that's been my policy, my practice, that I want to see, especially if it's a charge on a Visa bill that doesn't really break down or isn't very specific as to what that charge is. Say if it's a bill from a restaurant, if you don't have the receipt, you don't know if there was alcohol purchased, and not saying that somebody's going to purposely, have a drink at dinner and expect the county to pay for it, but maybe if they don't have their receipt right then, maybe they honestly forgot there wasn't a charge for alcohol on it, and normally they would probably, because I've seen Jerry Fox do it, he writes his own personal check when he turns that bill in for anything on there that the county wouldn't normally pay for, such as alcohol. So, that's one of my reasons behind asking for receipts. You need to see a breakdown and really know what it is you're paying for. But, I've seen the bills get to me, and they've already been signed off by the clerk, and they've already been signed off by the three of you, and then I find that they're missing receipts. So, just kind of clarify if it is your opinion that it's good practice, to go ahead and approve those payments, or?
I think it definitely is a good practice to expect receipts to be there.
Yes.
I think, immediate communication with the one to find out why there's not one there would be a natural thing.
And then what do you think if the receipts just can't be found, do you think, I think that the credit card policy then should say, if they're not responsible enough to keep the receipts together and have it together with the bill when they turn it in, or they've lost their receipts, that they understand that they're going to be personally liable to have to pay that charge. Because if the county pays it, per IRS regulations, if the county pays it without accountability there, without receipts, it should be considered a benefit to them added onto their income, and they get taxed on it as income.
There is probably a significant argument that can be made from a legal perspective, and Mike, maybe you can weigh in on this a little bit.
Thank you.
But there is a school of thought legally that and because you're right there, Mike, I'm going to use you as my example. If Mike Kriegbaum, elected sheriff, submits a Visa bill and says these are legitimate charges for my department, please pay this bill, that his vouching for the legitimacy of that bill is enough. But if you'd like to weigh in.
And what I'd like to say, and I do agree with Deanna, there should be accountability. My office, my policy says that they will have a detailed receipt. If for some reason they cannot produce that detailed receipt, and I know it is a legitimate, and this has happened in the past. I've had transport officers down in Indiana or wherever. Jody's called the gas station and tried numerous times to get that receipt, can't do it. We'll write a letter saying this is a legitimate transport officer, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Please pay this amount. Then that goes back to my policy where I reprimand my people for it, but yet it's still paid because it is a legitimate receipt. Back to what you're saying, there is a little bit of a legal issue. I'm given a budget to spend. It's for me to spend it how I see fit and let the 52,000 citizens decide whether that was right or not. Not necessarily for this commissioner or the auditor or the treasurer or anybody. But my policy is, yes, they have to have detailed receipts. I know the first month we had some receipts that weren't detailed, and I believe I included a letter with those that said, you know, these are legitimate, I know what they are. And none of them were mine, by the way. But I signed off on it, and she went ahead and paid it. So from now on, she will have detailed receipts, unless I do present a letter. And I think I've only presented, like, since I've been sheriff, maybe 5, 6 letters, that's it. And they do get lost occasionally, and especially, my transport guys are probably the worst for that, because they're more worried about
They're covered a lot
doing
of
their
ground
own
than they
stuff
have
instead of that.
to keep track of prisoners.
And usually we do get receipts later and send them up if they're available, but
Right.
some, you know, you go to those quick marts or something, they won't take the time to go back and find the receipt.
Right, they're not gonna go back and find the receipt, but, let's just say, Garazzo's Restaurant, Overland Park, Kansas, 5378. The receipt's in here, but let, for the sake of discussion, say that it was not. In the past, this is where we get in the situation where we reran accounts payable and paid 5378 less on that bill. What?
Well, you have to understand, I mean, I would love to and would, you know, I would not question Mike's word that that's a valid, you know, that he didn't put any charges on there that were invalid. However, the IRS doesn't
I
go
don't.
by that. You know, so you know, that's not an acceptable document.
If
in
the
IRS's
sheriff
eyes.
puts a letter in there and says this is a
Valid receipt from my office. I think you're okay with the IRS. Who are you gonna charge? Kurt Veneman? It's his card, but somebody else is using it.
Yeah,
Because
well,
we have 5 cards.
That's another problem.
Okay.
I mean, and that's something that probably needs to be addressed and spelled out in the credit card policy.
But, well, here's the thing. Let's say this was Kurt's meal, Kurt didn't report it. Do you really, in your heart of heart, think the IRS is devoting any time to chasing anybody to put them in Terre Haute prison for $53.78? Please don't speak out of turn.
Well, she's right, that's not the issue. The issue is, are we following regulations and doing things right up front?
The issue is, we say, technically, from our standpoint, Mike vouches for the charges, then it's on his back. But he has to make a legitimate attempt to get the receipts. Now, here's the thing. Mike's producing receipts, maybe not always on time. Now, if Mike forgets one receipt and can't produce it, we make note of that. Now, if it becomes habitual, yeah, then we have a problem. Let's see, Rick?
I recently went to training, and I had a $50 charge on the visa. Hadn't received the receipt back yet, but paid my credit card. I was questioned by the auditor, did the commission knew that you went? I said, yes, Commissioner Colbert went with me. And then she questioned me whether it was an expense the county should pay for or not. I'm the elected official. I signed the visa document. The credit card receipt arrived the next day. However, though, I went and got a cashier's check to give to the auditor. Didn't work. I went and got a personal check and wrote it to the auditor, or to the county. My question is, you know, I didn't want to have a late visa charge because it would invest the AP cycle. You know, so that was the issue there. We hadn't received the receipt. My question was, I was being questioned about spending my budget as an elected official, no matter what the policy is.
Okay, David?
Okay, number one, the cutoff date is until the 23rd or whatever, and the bill doesn't come to the 1st. So anybody that has a legitimate excuse they don't have a receipt, there is no reason. Because whether you do it online, you can print a receipt. If you were at the gas station, you can get a receipt. Whether it is 1 penny, $1, $100, $1,000, $5,000, the people want accountability. Okay, just because you're elected officials does not, it gives you the leeway to spend money where you see fit. But at the end of the year, and I would challenge this commission that this last one wasn't done right, there is a accounting in the newspaper for every dime spent by this county, and there was items left out of that were not included. And so you, as the elected officials, are supposed to account for every dime. And if there's no receipts, where does it get posted to? And then the second part of it is, forget about the IRS, because I don't think the IRS is going to be doing the audit. The person doing the audit is going to be the state. We have to go through an audit every so often, am I correct? So then when Deanna, I've been through audits. What do? They sit you in a room and they go, show me this bill for $53.68 itemized. When you can't show that one, then they go, because it's a percentage, and Tom used to be an auditor. They come through and they go, if you can show me, I'm going to ask for 10 things. If you can show me all 10, you're going to pass the audit. If you can't show 3 of the 10, then it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And if we look at the past audits, what did it say? Undocumented expenses, no receipts. I mean, and I'm sure the commission's wondering why so many people are here today. We support the auditor because you read the past audits and find all the mistakes. And the auditor's job is to make sure when the next audit is done that there's nothing to ding Lincoln County. We all are proud of where we live. We all want to enjoy where we live, and we want to see it prosper and do it right. When we sit here and hear, well, nobody's going to go to jail for 53 bucks. Okay, is it 500 bucks? Is it 1,000 bucks? Where is it? What's the limit? The limit is 0. There's no tolerance for non-documentation.
Tom?
Yeah, I would just suggest, I think a written policy would clear up all the issues of how you deal with things, okay? The large organizations that I have worked for and a company-sponsored credit card, you have always had a written policy, okay? You do that with IT about the use of company-owned equipment. You do that with company-owned credit cards, all of that, so there's no miscommunication. The employees know what they're supposed to be doing and how they're supposed to use it, and it details how you handle things in the future, and then there's no questions asked.
I don't think that there is any elected official in this building, in this system, I say this building, I mean the county, that has flat out refused to provide you receipts. Has there?
I've had a lot of problems getting receipts out of Leah sometimes. I mean, not that she's flat out refused, but I've had a lot of issues with that.
Okay. But you've gotten receipts.
Are those the same receipts that then you would find several months later under a pile in your office?
No.
Those were different ones.
Okay. The fact of the matter is this. Every elected official agrees that they should get you receipts. I think every elected official would probably agree that if a receipt gets lost, there's a thing called due diligence, that they need to put in their due diligence to get that receipt. Have we paid anything where we didn't have a receipt for yet?
I don't believe so.
Okay, I don't think we have. I see several head shake. You provide receipts, don't you, Mike?
Sure. And my biggest thing, and maybe I didn't emphasize that, I agree with David. You should have a policy that says that. Ours does. But we will get the receipt. Just don't hold up our payment for that receipt. Pay it with my letter stating there is a receipt, this is a good thing, and the receipt will get here.
Yeah, and true, at the end of the year, and I'm going to pick on you again, Mike, on Mike's credit card, he has $500 worth of things that he didn't produce a receipt for.
Then it's mine. It's on me.
Give it to him.
That's right.
You're comfortable with that, aren't you? Because you know you're going to produce